All right, good morning, Rabbi Sai. Today's shir, Lili Nishmas, Imi, Marosi, Rusbas Mordechai. Somebody said, oh wow, my mother was also nifter yesterday. Every day it's my mother. He thought it's my mother's yard site the other day. Today's shir is being sponsored by our great friend, a new one, from South Africa, Ian Meltzer, with massive thanks and Hashem's richest blessings to you, Eli, and your team for getting me into Gemara, learning, and refuah shlema for Mordechai Moshe ben Freda. So it's a beautiful thing. Like I said, people that started Masechtas Eruvin, they're in for a little treat because once we're done with the Eruvin, it's smooth sailing for a long time. Eruvin, I forgot what it is. I think it's Ayin, Eruvin, Yevamis, and Nida. Maybe. I don't know. I know Nida's in there. I don't know if the middle one is Ayin, the Yud. I don't know why they say it. Okay. Well, the last few daf were a little bit rough. Yeah, whatever. So anyways, by the way, I met Ian's son on Shabbos. It's a coincidence. They're very good friends with my downstairs neighbor, Donnie Sofer, and it happens to be that Ian's son learns with my son in yeshiva. It's a small world. Aaron, he goes to Barry Klein. So the kids are beautiful stuff. All right, Yishkoyach Ian. It's not the first time he's sponsored. I don't know if you noticed. And today's shir is being sponsored by Tzvi Fein in memory of his grandmother, Chanetzipora Bas Avram HaKoyen. The neshama should have an aliyah. We have a surprise email here from our good friend. A lot of you are wondering, where in the world is Michael Cohen? Michael Cohen, he used to learn in Philly Yeshiva. He's a chashuv, a lawyer. Where is he? I haven't written in almost 5 months. Sadly, I took a Shabbos on some of Shabbos. Though I'm not on Zoom, I'm back. I've been sidetracked by a very difficult personal, professional struggle, but ultimately realized that disengaging from my commitment to Daf Yomi cannot help me. You cannot daven asay leman teirascha if you don't learn Torah. As soon as I recommitted, I saw Yad Hashem. But of course, like everybody else, when they write email, they have a shtickle ha'ara. I was upset about one thing you said on the Zoom I joined a few weeks ago on my first day back, Eruvin Daf Yutes. You read an email from someone who said he missed a lot, and you said, so you won't make a scene with everybody in MetLife Stadium, you'll make your own siyum v'chulu. Oy, Hashem Yirachem. When you said this, it felt like a punch in my gut. If I heard that he would be making less chashuv siyum alone, he must have been completely discouraged. You must remind people that what Ramosha said, that one can make a siyum on one daf, that they will be welcomed with open arms to MetLife. Rubai Kekuloi, please contact this guy and tell him that I will pay for his ticket at MetLife and he'll sit with me and my brothers and celebrate as much as Shabbos as he completed. Ki ish echad b'lev echad, sincerely Michael. P.S. Please ask Yeshua for Mechila. He's been texting me throughout the last few months, asking where I am. I've consistently responded that I found a better Daf Yomi shir with a Magid shir that's even a more professional balgaiva than you. I'm assuming he means like he reads 4 emails about himself, not 2. Like how's a shaykh to be more of a professional balgaiva than me? Wow. Oh? I don't think he got that I was kidding. Classic Amaritz. Oh, nice. And to top it all, he sent me the official airline of the shir. So, Yishar Koyach, Michael, we missed you and your graphics. Now, by the way, it happens to be, it is Erev Rosh Hashanah, but because he stuffed me, I'm going to take the liberty. You know it's not a good idea to stuff me. No, I'm an Avi. Anyway, so, Lamaisa, what I'm trying to say here is, it's only because he called me a Balgaiva that I wouldn't do this to just a regular average Joe. I think the fact that he wasn't learning for 5 months, he pushed his cup is verstoppt. He learned the wrong pshat in the email, in what I told that guy. This kid, he's a fitness model. Remember him? And I told him, don't worry about it. You don't have to make a siyum on 2,711 daf with everybody. But of course you go to MetLife Stadium. People that don't learn a word of Gemara go to MetLife Stadium. You want to be there with 92,000 people say, Yomi Eruvin, of course. That wasn't my point, not to go to MetLife. My point was that just because people finish Shas on January 1st doesn't mean you have to finish on January 1st. I went to UFC in a month after, a month before. I don't even remember when it was. Everybody does different times. So he'll finish a month after everybody. He'll make his own siyum. He'll feel special about himself. It'll be something unique. But Avadi, you go to MetLife. No, Michael, get back into it. I want to see the Kishrin over here. Here's another one from Rabbi Avram Tukotsky. I have a special place in my heart for him because as we were pushed out of the space measures the first day of COVID, and I came home, and I say this all the time, there was a big giant box, massive box, with a beautiful painting, a piece of art from what's his name? No, the famous artist. No. It's Yona Weinrib. Beautiful, for my wife, with a plaque in it for the Rebbetzin, and it was beautiful. Anyway, so I have a very special place in my heart. Baruch Hashem, he's still around, and he says, first of all, I want to wish you strength to continue inspiring Yidden around the globe. Your live demonstration the other day with the box and stick was amazing. Also, your idea with cutting down a smartphone use is a wonderful idea. And basically goes on to say that he made there's a base measure he created in Lakewood, base measure Armat Sio, after his grandfather. He's in the backyard of his son-in-law, Tzviki Rubenfeld. Kitzur, they have a working program every evening for Balabatim. It sounds amazing. Something that we want to do over here as well one day. And they give food, and people come. Chavrus is the whole Maisa. And this is in Lakewood. And then he says he came up with a poster. And also, if you haven't seen this in America, it's amazing. A lot of shuls have this. This is a phone locker. The shul in Chicago at least has. You can recharge your phone in every one of these lockers. You take the key. And what he said is that they do a raffle. So based on the number, when they see the key is missing, they'll throw your number in a raffle, and you can win $20, $40 every night. It's a very cool idea. And the shul has this thing right over here. It can't wait. Lock up your phone. There's nothing on the phone that cannot wait until after your conversation with Hashem. Don't let your internet connection break your connection with Hashem. And I got this text. Huh? Okay. And I got this in a WhatsApp from Jonathan Stefansky. Can't give up the smartphone, but did take upon myself not to use it during davening, at least through Aseret Simei Tshuva. So it's beautiful stuff. People, Rabbi David, what's his name? No. What? Leiby's father, no? Bernard David. Yeah, they're Bernard David. He sent me also that it's amazing now without the phone. Cold turkey, not cold turkey, but Kitzer. All right. So we're holding Daf Lamed Ches by the Mishnah. Brand new Perek. Brand new Masechta. Rabbi, we're starting today. Masechtas Eruvin, section 2. Rebbe Lezer Oimer. Yom Tov hasomuch l'Shabbos. You know, it's amazing that we're discussing something that's happening in just a few days. Rosh Hashanah is going to fall out on Sunday, and Shabbos as well. So this is basically what the Mishnah is discussing. What's even more amazing is, it doesn't happen very often. It's a real coincidence, Yad Shmai, that tomorrow's Daf, Lamed Tes, the Mishnah, talks about Rosh Hashanah. Even mentions the word Rosh Hashanah. Daf Mem, which is even closer to Rosh Hashanah, talks about Tefillah. It's beautiful stuff. Rebbe Lezer Oimer, Yontav hasamach l'Shabbos. Today's Mishnah we're discussing is Rosh Hashanah. What did I do with my charts? Oh, okay. Got nervous there for a second. Okay, let's call it this chart. You have like this here. You have a Shabbos and a Yontif. 2 days. Is it considered one long Kedusha, or it's 2 separate days? 2 separate Kedushas. Kedusha A and Kedusha B. Nafkamina, if I set up one Eruv, does it work on both days? Not only that, could I set up 2 separate Eruvin? One for day A, one for day B. One for Shabbos, one for Sunday. In other words, I could maybe walk in different directions. If it's considered 2 different Kedushas, Shabbos is one Kedusha, has no connection to Rosh Hashanah that falls out on Sunday. It just happened to be one after another. So therefore, I can make an Eruv over here, walk 2,000 Amos in this direction. This is the end of the city. And here's the end of the city. This way, on Rosh Hashanah, I'll walk this way. Right? Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos both need an Eruv. Do we call it 2 Kedushas or one Kedusha? It's one long Kedusha, Shabbos, Yontav, all wrapped in one. Starts on Friday night, ends on Sunday night. So Reb Lezer Oimer Yontav Asamach l'Shabbos. Bei milafonel, bei milachrei. I don't care if Rosh Hashanah falls out on a Friday or Rosh Hashanah falls out on a Sunday. But back to back, Shabbos with a Yontav or Yontav with a Shabbos. Ma'arav Adam Shnei Eruvin. A person can make two separate Eruvim. They have no connection, Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah, Shabbos and Yontav. V'oimer Eruvei Berishoin leMizrach. My first Eruv will allow me to go to the east on the first day. Let's call it Shabbos, like in this year. Ubasheni, and the next day on Sunday, L'mayrav, I'm going to go to the west. Barishin L'mayrav, B'sheni leMizrach. Okay, I can do the reverse. Shabbos, I'm going to go to the west. Sunday, I'm going to go to the east. Or, here's a big chiddush. Eruvei Berishoin. I want an Eruv to last me for 24 hours only on the day called Shabbos. Ubasheni. And on the second day, Sunday, Kivnei Iri, no Eruv at all. I'm done. I'm only going to use my Eruv for Shabbos. Sunday, I won't have an Eruv, and therefore, if I don't have an Eruv, I could go from my house, I could go in all directions, 2,000 amas. Not from where the Eruv is 2,000 amas. I could go up and down, right and left, because I don't have an Eruv. I'm like a regular city person.
Here, there, and everywhere.
Here, there, and everywhere. Ubasheni kivnei iri. Eruvi basheni ubareishin kivnei iri. Or, I want my Eruv to be chal on Rosh Hashanah on Sunday, and I don't want anything to happen on Shabbos. It's two separate days. It's two separate kedushas. One has nothing to do with the other. It's an amazing thing. For 24 hours, I don't have an Eruv. All of a sudden, bam, I got an Eruv going. Why? Because I made it up before Shabbos came in. I made up my mind, I'm going to have an Eruv for Sunday. So that's if you hold there's two kedushas. V'chachamim moimrim. So Chachamim, we'll see in the Gemara, actually have a suffix. But let's call it for now one Kedusha. It starts on Friday night and goes for 48 hours straight. It's one continuous Kedusha. And therefore, whatever you do before Shabbos comes in or before Yontav comes in, that's going to last you for the entire 48-hour period. There's no changing. You can't do two. You can't do one a half. It has to be one long thing. Oy ma'ariv l'ruach achas. Now listen to this lashon, because the Gemara is going to talk about this lashon here. Or I could go to one direction. For how long? For 48 hours. Oy, eini ma'ariv kol ikar. Or I have everything. I'm all in or all out. Nothing in between. I'm going to make my Eruv either to the east, and it's going to last for the entire 48 hours for Shabbos and the first day of Yontif, or the second day, whatever it is, Yontif, or I'm going to put it on the, or zero. But I can't split it up because it's one long Kedusha. Now, in the first line, no Eruv. And then the Mishnah repeats itself. Slightly different lashon, but it means the same exact thing. Or I'm going to make an Eruv for 2 days, meaning on one side. Before he said, I'm going to make an Eruv on one side, meaning for 2 days. Then the Mishnah repeats itself. Or he's going to make an Eruv for 2 days, meaning on one side, in one direction. It means the same exact thing. And the Gemara explains why it repeats itself. This certainly is word for word as the line right before. Or there's zero. No Eruv at all, or an Eruv for 2 days. Ketzad Yaseh, we just had this a few days ago. The Gemara brought this Mishnah word for word. A person is making an Eruv for 2 days. He wants to use one bread, let's say. One loaf of bread. He is concerned that if he leaves it outdoors in the middle of the desert, a camel is going to come by and eat his bread. What's going to happen if he eats his bread? He won't have an Eruv for the second day. Especially if you hold like Rebbe Eliezer, that says 2 Gedushas. But even according to Rabbanon, they hold that you won't have an Eruv for the second day. So what does he do? His shliach goes and retrieves the Eruv. He waits until the first day, nightfall. Let's see if we don't really need a picture for this, but the first day is Shabbos. No, not a good picture. Sorry. Friday is Rosh Hashanah, is Yontif, and the second day is Shabbos. So he, on Thursday night, he goes and puts his Eruv, waits until it becomes dark.
Before Lo Adi Rosh?
The who?
Before Lo Adi Rosh?
Yeah. This is before any of that stuff, yeah. It's just for demonstration purposes only. It's not blue. Usually Rosh Hashanah is purple. But for demonstration purposes, I changed the color. Sorry. So anyways, the point is, it's just a mashal. By the way, we did have that Rosh Hashanah falls out on Friday and whatever. We said it that. So, let's say Rosh Hashanah falls out on just because this year we have something similar, so that's why I did Rosh Hashanah. He's going to put his Erev when it's still daytime. He's going to put it down, wait around, make sure that the sun goes down, it's night. He's going to pick up his Erev and walk home with it. Why? Because all you need is that Bein HaShmashos, the Erev should be there. It's chal, it's a good Erev. An animal could come and eat it, it's okay, and certainly you could take it home whole and bring it home. Then the following morning or evening, he brings his Erev back during daytime, places his Erev in the same place, perhaps even the same bread, and that's Shabbos, Friday night. The sun goes down, boof, it's an Erev for Shabbos, and then he's going to eat it. Right there and then, he could eat it on the spot. Because it was Roy Lachila for a moment during Bein HaShmashos. Ketzad Yaseh. Now, I just want to point out one thing that Rashi points out. We're talking about a shliach. Why? Because we're going to see even today, there's something called that he's ma'arev biraglov. He makes an erev with his feet. In other words, if you yourself, the person that wants to use the erev, is right there at the Makam Shvisa, in the desert, you don't need a challah. You don't need an erev. You are there. You are kind of Shvisa. You don't need an Erev if you are there. If you are not there, you send somebody with a challah and say, hey, be kind of shvisa for me. Pretend my residence is over there in the desert. But if you personally are in the desert, that is your Erev, kind of beraglov. So you're there for a moment, during Bein HaShmashos, you walk home. So this whole story only happened with a messenger, a shliach. Otherwise, you don't need a challah. Ketzad Yaseh Malicha Berishain. The first day, the shliach goes there, he makes sure that it's nice and dark, and he takes it, and he brings it back home. Basheni, so for the second day, he makes sure he's there right before nighttime, and then the sun goes down, it's completely dark, and then he could eat it, and he comes home without an Erev, but it's okay, you don't need an Erev to be physically there, all you need the Erev to be there is for a moment, during Bein HaShmashos, v'ninsa mistaker b'alichasoi mistaker be'iruvoi. So he gained by going there, making an Erev, and he also gained that he's able to eat the Erev if he's really hungry. What about this case, Rabbi Isai? First goes Shabbos. The first day is Shabbos. The second day, like in this year, Rosh Hashanah is on Sunday. Also, pretend Rosh Hashanah is one day. Tomorrow we're going to discuss Rosh Hashanah is a Kedusha Achas, two Kedushas, the 2 days, 1, 2. Shabbos. You cannot do this trick on Shabbos. Why? You can't carry. How is he going to carry the Erev all the way home? So what does he do when this situation happens? He brings his Erev right before Shabbos. He waits until it becomes dark. He goes home without an Erev. He can't bring it home. The following day, he's going to go to the Erev and see if a camel ate it. If a camel ate it, then he cannot carry on Rosh Hashanah. No tchum. He could go home. Well, there's no tchum. He can't go further this way. He still has the 2,000 amas of his city. He could go, yeah, but he can't move this way. But if the Erev is there, he knows that it's good, and he could use the Erev, and he uses the tchum. Necha b'rishayin. What if on the first day the bread was eaten? It only works for one day. Then his second day, he doesn't have an Erev. Omelem Rebbe Eliezer, Moidem atem li. Don't you agree with me? Shein shtei kedushos. Look, Chachamim admit to this line. Chachamim say that if the Eruv was eaten between the first and the second day, there's no Eruv on the second day. But if you hold that it's one long Kedusha, so why is the Eruv not enough that it was Chal, Ben Hashmoshes, on Friday? This one. If you hold that it's one Kedusha, so then one Eruv should be enough for both days. You put the Eruv down over here right before Friday, and it's a good Eruv for the first day. Then it was eaten, it should be good for the second day. Why not? It's one Kedusha. So you're telling me that it's not good for the second day. That means you're telling me that it's two separate days, it's two separate Kedushas. But it is good. It is good for both days. Or I'm sorry, it says, Ve'eni ruvi lasheni. It's not good for the second day. That means it's two Kedushas. Rebbe Lezer has a tremendous taina here. Rebbe Lezer is the one that holds that it's two separate days. I can make an Eruv for one day and an Eruv for another day. I can go in two different directions. Two different Eruv. If that's the case, so why are you telling me, so it fits in very well, that if I make an Eruv and it was eaten, it's not good for the second day because the second day needs its own Eruv. If an Eruv is good for 2 days, that means it's one Kedusha. If an Eruv is not good for 2 days, it's two Kedushas. Chachamim say it's one Kedusha. So how come it's not good for the second day? Says, so, Omer Lahem Rebbe Lezer, Moedim Atem Lishim, Shnei Kedushas. It's a great taina. The Gemara answers the taina. Now the Gemara is just going to discuss that language in the Mishnah that was repetitive. L'ruach achas ma'niu, when the Mishnah says in Chachamim that you go to one direction, for how many days? Ma'niu. L'shnei yomim, obviously it's talking about that you go in one direction for 2 days. L'shnei yomim, ma'niu, and the following line it says, you put it for 2 days, the Eruv for 2 days, l'ruach achas, obviously you want to go to one direction. So the Mishnah is repetitive. Says the Gemara, okay, you're right. Chacham have a taina to Rebbe Lezer. I'll prove to you that it's two Kedushas. Why? Because look, could you make one Eruv until afternoon and then another Eruv from afternoon to the evening and go in two different directions? Obviously you can't. So therefore, so that's what they meant in the first lashon. So you look at the Mishnah, you can't split a day in half, so you can't split 2 days in half. I do admit to that. And then, so they tell him, if you can't split 1 day in half, how can you split 2 days in half? So what's the obvious answer to that? You can't split 1 day, you can't split a Shabbos and divide the hours in half. Shabbos until Mincha, I'm going to go east. Shabbos after Mincha, I'm going to go west. That's one Kedusha, you can't do that. But on 2 separate days, says Rebbe Lezer, I could split them in half. They're 2 different Kedushas. So it makes a lot of sense, says Rebbe Lezer, I could go, on day 1 I could go to the east, on day 2 I could go to the west. Now, what's Rebbe Lezer's taina to Chachamim? Beraglov means that you are physically there. If a person is physically there, in the desert, where he doesn't even need bread, don't you agree, that he has to come back? It's not good enough to come Thursday night, right before Yontif comes in, and say, oh, I was kind of shvisa here, and then walk home, and then you have an Eruv for 2 days straight. Don't you agree with me that he has to come back Yontif afternoon and make another Eruv physically and be there and say, I'm going to be there for the second day of Shabbos? Okay, now, what about the last line in the Mishnah? What if he placed the challah there on the first day, on Yontif, and the challah was eaten, and you, Chachamim, admit to me that the Eruv doesn't work for the second day? No, that tells me that's 2 Kedushas. If it was 1 Kedusha, just like if I place an Eruv Shabbos, for 1 millisecond of Ben Hashmoshes, it's good to go for 24 hours. So according to Chachamim, if I put it there for 1 millisecond Ben Hashmoshes, it should be good to go for 48 hours. Why do Chachamim say it's not good for 48 hours, it's only good for 24 hours? Obviously, they have a hole in their theory. Obviously, it's not one long Gedusha, 100%, because if it was one long Gedusha, one Eruv in the beginning of Bein HaShmashos of Friday should be enough for 2 days. Amr lo Yavel, you're right. Halai Beis Gedusha saying, continues, Rabbi Lezer says, but no, so this is proof that it's 2 Gedushas. If you tell me that you required a second Eruv according to Chachamim, even Chachamim say, for the second day, should we look at the chart again? Stam. If this is one Kedusha, then if I put an Eruv right over here, it shall last me through the whole Kedusha. The fact that Chachamim say that if it was eaten somewhere over here, an animal came and ate it, this day doesn't have an Eruv, that means there's a break here. It's not one Kedusha. Says the Gemara, what's going on here? Rabbanan are not sure if it's one Kedusha or 2 Kedushas. They have no idea. So that's why they say, let's go l'chumra. In every single case, let's take the case individually and go l'chumra. V'hacha l'chumra. So, in this case, which the Mishnah started off at, I cannot put 2 Eruvim on both. For some reason, the article says Eruvs. I'm not sure. I have to look into it. Why he says Eruvs? Shouldn't it be Eruvin? I'm not Israeli, but no. Eruvin plural? I don't know. Talmud Chachams. Amaratzes. But they know what they're talking about. I'm not going to fight with them, but it looked interesting. Anyway, this case, that I want to be makel, I want to put an Eruv on either side of my town and walk one day this way and one way that way, say, Chachamim, let's be machmer, it doesn't work. I need to be machmer, because I don't know if it's 2 Kedushas or 1 Kedusha. Let's, in this situation, say it's 1 Kedusha, and therefore I can't divide the 2 days. 1 Eruv and that's it. That's Chumrah. But in the case that the Eruv got eaten up, I can't be makel and say, oh, it's 1 Kedusha, and let 1 Eruv work for 2 days. Over there I'm going to be machmer again and say, let him place another Eruv. I want to be machmer on him. Let's pretend that it's 2 Kedushas. Wherever it's more chomer, that's what I'm going to use. If the chumrah is to say it's 1 Kedusha, I'm going to say it's 1 Kedusha. If the chumrah is 2 Kedusha, because I don't know. Chachamar, I don't know situation. The unknown makes you do chumras. That's why they said you need another Eruv. And what do we call that? We're not going to go into it this second. In 2 seconds we will. It's a chamar gamal. Chamar gamal, in other words, since you have a suffix, you cannot go this way, and you cannot go this way. Perhaps your Eruv doesn't work, so I can't go this way. I can only go from my town up until the Eruv, and from my Eruv back to the town. I can't go to the other direction of my city. I can't go this way. Well, I could go a little bit this way, halfway through the city. That's a different sugya. But just let's make it easier. I cannot go this way because perhaps my Eruv worked. My Shvisa, I reside right here by my chala, so I can only go this way. I can't go past my town to the other direction. But perhaps this doesn't work. My shvisa is in my town, so I can only go here. So I'm stuck between a camel and a donkey. That's what Chacham are going to say. In other words, suffix. Chamar gamal is a lashon of suffix.
Why wouldn't they report on one side?
Because it was eaten. It was eaten. No, it was eaten.
Oh, it was eaten.
Yeah, in a situation that was eaten. I'm talking about eaten. If it was not eaten, then yeah, then I have a Eruv on the other for 1 day. In other words, I could go to that side. If I make 1 Eruv to the east and 1 Eruv to the west, Chacham say it doesn't work. I have to be choshed for 1 Kedusha. So yeah, that 1 Eruv would work throughout the 2 days. Amr loy le Rebbe Eliezer. So now, what are Chacham saying to Rebbe Eliezer? On Yontif itself, on Yontif, where's Yontif here? If Friday is Rosh Hashanah, could I make an Eruv by Tashlich time? Yeah, when do you do Tashlich? First day of Rosh Hashanah? First day. Tashlich. Could I go and make an Eruv for Shabbos? No, I can't. Only before. So what do you see? It's 1 Kedusha. If it's 2 Kedushas, let him make an Eruv over here. Let him make it by Tashlich. No, you can only do it before Yom Tov starts, for Shabbos. Why? Because it's one long Kedusha. Amar lehem aval, I agree. Halai Kedusha achasi, doesn't this prove something? That's one thing. Lezer hasam shumachana. I can't make an Erev on Tashlich for Shabbos. That's preparing for Shabbos on Yom Tov, and I cannot prepare for Shabbos on Yom Tov. That's achana. What's achana? Issa deraisa. We're going to see about achana on Amud Beis, but real quickly, I just want to point out Tosfos. If achana is issa deraisa, how does the Eruv Tafshilin help me to prepare and undo a issa deraisa? How could the Rabbanon Eruv called Eruv Tafshilin, overcome an issa deraisa of preparing? How could I prepare on Yom Tov for Shabbos? The answer is, says Tosfos, because even with deraisa, I have the concept called hoyel. I pretend that I have guests, and I'm preparing on Yom Tov extra food for those guests, and I just, by mistake, have extra food for Shabbos. So that is what gets rid of the Issa D'Oraisa, and the Tosfos all the way at the end, the Ritzbah says something very interesting, that when you take ingredients, you're not creating something new, you're just fixing it up a little bit. Whereas the Erev, you're creating something brand new. There's a noilad here. Taking a bunch of ingredients is not create food. When you cook food, you're not creating something new. So that's not an Isser. Anyway, says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, Erev b'ragla b'yom rishon, ma'arev b'ragla b'yom sheni. If you decided you want to be cheap, you don't want to bring a roll there, you want your feet, you want your physical body to be the Erev, so then you have to repeat that process twice. You have to come for the second day also. Nechal Eruva b'yom rishon, if his Erev was eaten on the first day, ein yoytza Allah b'yom sheni, divrei Rebbe. So, we have three shittas here. What happens if your Erev was eaten on the first day? As usual, we have the two extremes, and we have the middle one. That's a pshara, a compromise. Rebbe says if your Erev was eaten between the first and second day, you cannot use your red. Can't do it. No good. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Shmuel say it is good. One Erev, what do they hold? What are they going to hold? It's one Kedusha, it works. You put the Erev in the beginning, it works all the way through and through for 2 days. So if the Erev was eaten, Rabbi Yehuda says, Chamar Gamel. It's in between. I don't know. It's a suffix. So I'm stuck. I can use it between my house and the Erev and the Erev to the house, but that's it. So that's the in-between shita. Says the Gemara inside, Nechal Erev Yom Rishon, if his Erev was eaten on the first day, and Yotzal B'Yom Sheni, he cannot use it at all for the second day. Divrei Rebbe, who is this Rebbe? Rebbe Yehuda Omer, and Rebbe Yehuda says, Harei Ze Chamar Gamel. So returning to Daf Lamed Ches Amud Beis, sponsored by Asher, Lili Nishmas' mother, Roiza Bas Ben Yomin. We're coming up. The month is almost over. We're switching. We already have 2 Baruch Hashem. No, I don't know. It's a surprise to me. And he says, Rabbi Isai, you could decide to make it a great day. And by Dr. Atzadik, Mordechai, Dr. Listhouse, Lili Nishmas' father, Mordechai Yosef ben Aaron, the father of the Tzadik. Anyways, Zok to Gemara. Now, I didn't say this weird joke when we were learning the Mishnah, but we'll say it now real quickly. They say in Maisa, and I have a ara on this Maisa, they say that Amaritz came to Reb Chaim Volozhiner, and he says to Reb Chaim Volozhiner, I would like to borrow your Gemara. So Reb Chaim Volozhiner says, I can't lend you my Gemara because you're known in the city. You like to make ha'aras on the side. You have different comments, and then you even sign your name on it. No, thank you. So he says, I promise you, the Rosh Shiva, I'm not going to do anything. So he says, if you promise. Gets to the Amaritz, gets to this Mishnah, to his Gemara, and it says, Chamar Gamal. He looks at it, he says, no, Chamar is spelled with a Vav. Chamar Gamal. Something's wrong here. But he promised Reb Chaim Volozhin he's not going to do it. But he couldn't control himself. Amaritz. So he writes on the side, Chamar Gadol, and he signs his name. So he brings the Gemara back to Reb Chaim Volozhiner. Reb Chaim Volozhiner looks at it, he says, I understand that you made a ha'ara, you made a comment, but why did you sign your name? Anyway, so the reason why I don't think it's a true story, even though it's running around the story, Reb Chaim Volozhiner, he was the original Rosh Yeshiva in the last, they had yeshivas maybe in the time of the Gemara, maybe in Rishonim, but they didn't have yeshivas for hundreds and hundreds. He reinstituted the concept of yeshivas. I don't believe that he would shtuck somebody like that. It's not me and Michael Cohen kind of thing going on here. This is Reb Chaim Volozhin. Therefore, it's an interesting joke, but I don't think it ever happened. Anyway, Chaim Volozhin, or the biggest Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, Lamatim. Says the Gemara, Reb Shimon Gamliel Reb Shmuel ben Noisher Reb Yochanan ben Broika Oimrim, Eirav beragla berishoin, ein ma'ara beragla b'sheni. What does ein ma'ara mean? You don't need to. You don't need to make an eruv here. In other words, one eruv is enough. It was eaten by an animal. It lasts me for 2 days. Why? Because Gedusha Achas, it's one long Gedusha. Nechal eruv b'im rishon, yoytzal b'sheni. If his eruv is eaten, it's great. Omar Rav. Says Rav. Halacha arbos kenim halalu v'aliba de Rebbe Lezer. What does Rebbe Lezer say? Rabbi say, shnei kedushas. Rebbe Lezer holds I could put one eruv for Shabbos and I could go to the east, a second eruv for Rosh Hashanah, the second day, and go to the west. It's 2 separate kedushas. Rebbe Lezer says 2 kedushas. I'm going to give you a list of 4 Tanaim that agree with him. Who are they? Reb Shimon Gamliel, Reb Shmuel ben Reb Yochanan ben Broika. Very hard to say his name. Even the Gemara later on just says V'chulu. Reb Shmuel ben Reb Yochanan ben Broika. Reb Eliezer ben Reb Shimon. And Reb Eliezer ben Shimon. And the last one here, you see number 4, Reb Yosi bar Yehuda Stimita. Stimita. So Rashi says Stimita means that a lot of times Rebbe, who wrote the Mishnah, he brought Reb Yosi, and he didn't even mention his name. He's a Stam Mishnah. We know Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir. There are times in Shas where Rebbe brought him as a Stam Mishnah. Oh, Rabbi said, what's going on here? Look at this. Rebbe Lezer says 2 Kedushas. Who's number 1 and number 2? Reb Shimon Gamliel, Reb Shmuel. What color is this? Red. It's 2 Kedushas. You can't use one eruv for the other day. You get 2 separate eruvim. Same names, different color. Reb Shimon Gamliel, Reb Shmuel say, 1 eruv for 2 days. 1 kedusha. What's going on here? No, what's the teretz based on what we learned yesterday 3 times? Anybody? Eipuch. Flip. You have to flip the shita. Okay. And some people say that you take out this name, Rebbe Yosi Stima, and you put in instead Rebbe Lazar. You take out Rebbe Yosi Stima. Who's Rebbe Lazar? Says Rashi. It's Rebbe Lazar ben Shamua all over Shas. That the name, you remember this Rashi for the entire Shas. Anytime the Gemara mentions Rebbe Lazar, it means Rebbe Lazar ben Shamua. Not like we just said, Rebbe Lazar ben Reb Shimon. Okay. Says the Gemara, we just finished saying that that they hold that it's 1 kedusha. If I have an eruv that was eaten, I don't need another eruv. It goes for all 48 hours. Says the Gemara, Eipoch. I need to flip Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Shmuel. Instead of Yaitei, Lo Yaitei. The green turns red, and therefore it matches this list right over here. So whoever was green turns into red. Says Gemara, Yahachi Hainu Rebbe. If you're going to turn Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Shmuel into red, guess who else is red? Rebbe. What's going on here? Says the Gemara. So what? Rebbe, it should be Rebbe, Reb Shimon Gamliel, and Reb Shmuel. Says the Gemara, Ema v'chein omer Reb Shimon Gamliel. Rebbe says this, but also Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Shmuel. And it says here v'chulu, by the way. Reb Shmuel ben Reb Yochanan ben Broika. It's too long to say his name. V'lichshav nami Rebbe. So then why is Rebbe not on this list? Here's the red list. Rebbe, V'chein, Reb Shimon Gamliel, and Reb Shmuel. This is in red. Look at this list. Who's missing from this list? Rebbe. Number 1 on the list should be Rebbe. Why is he not here? Says the Gemara, Tani la v'lei savala. Because he himself doesn't hold of it. He mentions it as a Tana. He's saying over that Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Shmuel ben Yoshua, they hold of it, but he himself doesn't hold of it. Oh, says the Gemara, Rabbanan Nami Tanu Lo V'Lo Yisavri Lo. Maybe Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Shmuel just mentioned it and said it over from the Rebbe, but they themselves don't hold it. Why is Rebbe any different than Reb Shimon Gamliel? Says the Gemara, Gemara Gomer Lo. Rav had a Kabbalah from his Rabbeim, who holds what and not. He knew that Reb Shimon Gamliel and Reb Shmuel hold that you're not yoytze with the erev that was eaten. Rebbe himself doesn't hold of that. Says the Gemara, Kinoyach nafshei de Rav Huna, Ayol Rav Chizda lemirma de Rav Adarav. When I was learning this Gemara, I didn't understand. What does the Ptira, when Rav Huna was nifter, Rav Chizda went into the Beis Medrash and he asked a question, a stira. What's the connection one to the other? If he was his Rebbe, why did he go in? What's the connection? No, so it's the exact opposite. The Meritz Chayus says, and also it's brought down from the Marsham. The Marsham says that this is a beautiful pshat. The Marsham is Reb Shalom Shvadron's, if you know Reb Shalom Shvadron from the Maggid Speaks, you know, Reb Pesach Kron's series of Svar. His grandfather is the Marsham. Marsham says this is a beautiful pshat. I love the pshat. It just fit in. Kinoyach nafshei de Ravuna. When Ravuna is nifter, also he says because the Gemara in Baba Metzia Daf Lamed Gimel says that Rav Chizda and Rav Huna were in a big fight. They said that somebody insulted each other. For 40 years they wouldn't talk to each other. So Rav Chizda had to stay away from the Beis Medrash for 40 years. Can you imagine? He was exploding. He had all these kashas for 40 years. That minute that Rav Huna was nifter, he ran mad dash to the Beis Medrash and he started spilling it all out. What do you guys say about this? So he said, the first thing he says, Lemirma, the Rav Adarav, a tremendous kasha, a stira, contradiction Rav. Me, Omar Rav Alocha Kedalit Skenim Bali B'der Rebbe Lezer Dom Ashtei Kedushas Hein. Look at this list. Rav says that all these Skenim hold like Rebbe Eliezer, that it's two Kedushas. V'itmar Shabbos v'Yontiv. Rav Omar. By Shabbos and Yontiv, when it comes to an egg, right? First Mishnah Mesechus Beitza. Beitza, nolda b'zeh, asur b'zeh. If an egg was born on one day, it's asur on the following day. Oh, maraba. So, why is it that an egg that was born on Shabbos should be asur on the following day Yontif? Like on Rosh Hashanah coming up, if an egg was born on the first day on Shabbos, it's asur to eat it on the second day. Doesn't that prove to me that it's Kedusha Achas? It's one long Kedusha. Why should it be also the second day? It wasn't Noilad on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. It was not on the first day. It should be also that day. The second day should never be also. Right? If an egg was born on Friday, is it also on Shabbos? No. So why, if it was born on Shabbos, should it be also on the second day of Yantif? Amar Rabba, what's the connection? Hasam Shum Achana. The Tanya, so we already touched upon Achana, Issa Deraisa. The Tanya, V'haya Bayam Hashishi, some most Rishonim Taisis, V'haya Bayam Hashishi, is talking about the man. You have to gather the man on Friday, Veichinu, and prepare it. In other words, only on Friday you prepare for Shabbos the man. You cannot prepare from Yantif to Shabbos, and certainly not from Shabbos to Yantif. So that's why an egg created on Shabbos is also on the following day Yantif. In our Mishnah we learned on Yontif, right? If you have a piece of bread, you're concerned that an animal is going to eat it. On Yontif, you walk all the way to your Eruv, you place it down again for Shabbos. Isn't that preparing for Shabbos? On Yontif, you're walking. He's preparing. He's walking on Yontif with an Eruv, placing the Eruv down, making an Eruv on Yontif. So what? So they could walk 2,000 amas on Shabbos. Amazing. I'm allowed to walk, says Rabbi. I'm allowed to walk all the way to there. Nothing happened. No Eruv will happen. When is the Eruv Chal? When Shabbos comes in. That's when the Eruv is Chal. Big Chiddush. I'm going to see a little bit more. Why is that not considered preparing? Are you allowed to walk somewhere to get a taxi as Shabbos comes out? Over here it says yes. I'm allowed to walk with my bread all the way through the desert. because the Eruv doesn't happen until Shabbos itself. If it would happen on Yontif, you're preparing from Yontif to Shabbos. But it only happens after nightfall. Shabbos prepares itself. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, didn't we learn the other day that if a person has a kli that's tamei and has food in it, and you didn't take away the meiseres, but if you're going to take meiser and say whatever's inside the kli is meiser, this kli is a tful yoim. It was in the mikvah, but it wasn't herav shemesh, it wasn't nightfall yet, so it's metama trumas and meiseres. It'll make the meiser inside tamei. It'll make the truma tamei. So what do I say? I say when it becomes night, that's when it should be chal. Now, if the Eruv is chal, Shabbos, later on, so first what happened was, it became meiser, immediately became meiser. Later on, here, let's say, this is, you see it's still light outside, this is ben hashmoshes. It becomes like, we had all sugi, hichsef hashemesh, it becomes red, dark. So you have 9 minutes over here, let's say. Here's where it becomes meiser. Here's where your Eruv should be chal. Why is that not good? In that case of wine in a jar, that's a tful yom jar, we say you can't make an Eruv. It flips into meiser, but you can't make an Eruv. Why not? The Eruv should be chal over here. Says the Gemara, the bottom line is, I can't eat the meal. You have to be able to drink the wine, and he can't drink the wine because he has no idea where, is it nighttime or not nighttime. He has no idea. Since he has no idea, he can't eat it. You're right. There's some sort of time here that it became meiser, and it's roy, like you could eat it. Halachically, you could eat it. But technically speaking, he has a problem. He doesn't know when. He doesn't know if he could. So it's not a meal that you could eat. Okay. Rabbi say, I'm sorry, so we will stop here because of slichos. It's a big problem. We'll have to make it up. Sorry about that. We'll stop right here. If you want to stay for Tehilim, please stay. I am actually going to go to slichos now in the middle of Tehilim. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, Rabbi say. Shem alois,